Welcome everybody to my episode of Pallet Town. I see we're in the forest once again. We are going to go back to the nearest Pokestop, I believe. I think that's what my current goal is going to be. Yes, I remember this forest. I believe I left off in this forest, so we're just fine. Willenstein. No, we're not training a Zubat. I'm not going to train a Zubat. We're gonna train Applebee's some more. Why not? We're gonna have a nice day of grinding Applebee's up once again. That's what we're gonna do. On today's episode, I kind of wanted to talk about video games and their length of development, because that's something I've been thinking a lot about lately. I don't know exactly why, probably because of Spider-Man. I thought about this a lot when, God of War came out as well, is that these people pour years of their lives into making these games, and just like tens of thousands of man hours to make these video games, and then bad people like me finish them in a weekend. And it's crazy. It's crazy that it's just all over so quickly, and all of that is just kind of glazed over. And I understand, I'm of the opinion that quantity and quality can be completely separate when it comes to the value proposition of a video game. Like, I just played through Donut County not too long ago. That was a nice, short little 3-hour experience, and I enjoyed it. It was a good time. But it still doesn't take away from the fact that video games take a really long time to make. But then I started thinking about movies, and movies take a pretty long time to make, and all of those pretty much have a standard runtime. Like, you're not going to have many movies that are longer than 2.5 hours at the maximum. So that led me to think about that, and about how much man hours people put into movies, and about how quickly that's over. Like, my assumption is that the movie development cycle isn't nearly as long as the video game development cycle, but that's totally just a guess. And another kind of hole you could poke in that argument as to enjoyment time equating to development time, or whatever you want to call it, is that if you're playing a video game, you're glazing over a lot of the assets that a lot of people have spent a lot of time making. So like in a level, for example, you could just breeze right by background that someone spent like 3 weeks of development working on and perfecting, and it could just go completely unnoticed to you, which is fascinating, and something that's kind of sucks because these games take a long time to make, and then they come out and then people are done with them in a weekend. But video games have plenty of replay potential, just as movies have lots of rewatch potential. So there's also the possibility that making a video game could have changed somebody's life for the better, which is also nice to think about. But you could also make a video game in a very short period of time that people will play for a very long time, which is weird. Like, take Pokemon, for example. I'm sure once they hit their stride, Pokemon games didn't take longer than 2 years to develop. And people have probably spent more time playing a Pokemon game than they have, like, Duke Nukem Forever, which took, like, 10 years to come out. I just find the prospect of somebody spending their entire lives making a video game that gets burned through by most people in a weekend fascinating. It's something that I ponder, especially with these big, shiny, flashy AAA games coming out these days. And I finished Spider-Man and I enjoyed it. The story was disappointing. My least favorite part of the game was the story. I felt it was the weakest component of the Marvel Spider-Man on PS4 package, but overall I enjoyed it. I played a lot of Spider-Man 2 on the PS2 back in the day, and that was when I did not have a memory card. And boy, not having a memory card sure sucks. So I had a GameCube and didn't have a memory card for that. And then I got a PS2 and didn't have a memory card for that. And it was like well over a year for both before I got a memory card. So I would just have to leave the console on for a really long time and play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 a lot. And then every time I would just have to play through the campaign sections over again. because my progress was never saved. Or I had a Scooby-Doo game that I was just like perpetually playing the opening sections over and over in, which was a little silly. We're gonna switch back out. We leveled up our Ladybug here, so let's switch out to something else. I kind of want to do Bellsprout, but he's not going to do much damage against anything in here. So actually, Applebee's is 16 still, so we can level up Applebee's again. I'll move forward for once. These lower level things aren't giving me enough XP to level my things up at a satisfying rate. But yeah, I didn't have a memory card, and I don't know if it was just this really sad feeling. Like, it caused me to look at video games in a much more casual light, knowing that I wasn't really contributing to anything that would continue to grow, like a save file that I would continuously chip away at over like months. Instead, it was this thing that I would just turn on, play for a little bit, and then be done with and walk away from. But I got a Guitar Hero 2 before I had a memory card, and so I just had to look up like the unlock everything cheat and just use that over and over and over in order to do whatever I wanted. So the Guitar Hero 2 unlock all songs cheat I have memorized. It's muscle memory now in my fingers. If you gave me a Guitar Hero controller, I could perform the unlock all songs cheat for you. But that also led to this moment of finally getting a memory card and just being like, oh, I can do so much now. But it took like one sports franchise save, one sports game franchise mode save to just completely obliterate your memory card. And boy, did I have a lot of those. I didn't have a lot, I just had like one. It was college football, and that just decimated my memory card space. I just didn't know. I was unaware. And it's interesting that college sports games aren't a thing anymore because of lawsuits. And I remember being very confused at the lack of names in the college sports games. And now I completely understand that that's due to the fact that college sports players cannot make money off their namesake in any shape, way, or form, and by another company making a video game and putting players' names in it, they're in some sense profiting off of them, which is a no-no. And so I was really confused as to why you couldn't make names. And the games that I played, they had a generate names button, and what you could do with that is that you would hit it when you started the game, and then it would generate random names for all the players, which was really strange. But you could do that in case you didn't want to, you know, have number 87 run in for a touchdown and have no emotional connection to that number. But I believe where the lawsuit came up is that they used the players' likenesses. So they used their numbers and likenesses, which I believe was enough to spurt on some legal trouble. Because just having, you know, players in there, it's like, oh, whatever. You're just playing a college sports game. But I think it was having the likenesses of the players that really caused it to happen. But I played a lot of college sports games. The PS3, we had what I believe was a launch title. It was a college basketball game. I think it was like 2K7. I played that a whole lot, and I liked it. It was the only PS3 game we had that did 1080p, and I remember the projector that we had. We played our PS3 on a projector, and the screen, the HD on the screen wasn't entirely working, so we just had to play in standard definition for a while. But my dad got the HD working, and it went from 480p to 1080p, and boy, was that beautiful. It was really wonderful witnessing 1080p for the first time in my life. We don't have cut yet, do we? Yeah, I don't believe so. I don't know what we were doing in the woods. It doesn't look like there's anywhere I can go. I saw the slowpokes around, so they must have solved the Team Rocket problem. And video game graphics like HD was something that I didn't understand for a really long time. I was playing my PS3 after the projector. I was using it on a standard definition television, and I thought it was fine. There was one instance in which I was playing Crysis 2 on it, and I could like barely tell what was happening most of the time, mostly because like just the brightness was really bad in that game, but also I think like the lower resolution and really like not so good frame rate made me not able to see much or to really figure out what was going on screen. But anyway, eventually I got an HD TV, and I remember plugging that sucker in and playing Battlefield 1943 and Killzone 3, and boy was I blown away. I was like, this is what I've been missing? And now I understand resolution, and now it all looks wonderful and beautiful and great. Did we already get this gym? Might as well check that out. No, it doesn't appear we have. We've got one gym badge, so I assume we haven't yet finished this gym. Who do I have coming out? I have Ladybug, I believe. Okay, yep, cool. So I believe finishing this gym will probably be what's supposed to come next. And I remember just wanting to play every game after getting that HD TV and just wanting to see what high definition looked like on everything. And just being awestruck at everything. Just thinking it all looks so amazing and so sharp. There was like this weird honeymoon phase that I had with the PS3, and I don't know how to explain it exactly, but I think honeymoon phase is a term that I've heard used in the past that probably most accurately describes the feeling I had, where I was just like enamored with anything on the PS3 because I was used to PS2 and GameCube for such a long time that I would see whatever this PS3 was capable of and just like go all googly-eyed over it. Just be absolutely amazed. And that included Sonic 06, because Sonic 06 was a game that we got. That was an early PS3 title. And so I played that quite a bit, and I would just be like, wow, this is high definition. This is insane. Whereas nowadays, it's a lot easier for me to not look at those things in rose-tinted glasses like I assume I did back in the day. Because now I'll play GameCube games and have more fun with those than I will some PS3 games. And the look of PS3 games definitely hasn't aged well. Like, I remember playing Uncharted and The Last of Us back in the day and just being awestruck by how great everything looked. And nowadays, it feels like there's aliasing everywhere. All I see is the Jaggies. Why is it that all I see are the Jaggies? Like, I just played through Uncharted 3 on PS3 and it looks gross. For the most part, there's a little, like, part of my brain that I can just switch off and just kind of look at things in the context in which they were developed, or kind of look at things through the lens of the time frame they came out in. And there were a few times while I was playing Uncharted 3 on PS3 where I got that switch to flip. But I find it a lot easier to do with much older games. Like games like this, sprite-based games, I think are very easy for me to go back to. Or Star Fox is an interesting one. Star Fox on the Super Nintendo looks like absolute trash compared to games today, but I'm able to like just kind of suspend my disbelief for a moment and realize how ridiculous of a technical achievement that was, getting that to run on Super Nintendo hardware and it being like entirely 3D. And then I'm just able to sit back and really enjoy it for what it is. A game that I loved was Rogue Squadron 2. I believe that's it, Rogue Squadron 2, Rogue Leader, something like that. The one on GameCube. Boy, did I love that game. I believe I first played it in a McDonald's, because McDonald's used to have Nintendo systems there that you can just walk up to and play. That's how I first played Super Mario Sunshine. But anyway, that's how I first played Star Wars, and then my dad got it. He got the Star Wars game for GameCube, but he played it, and it was his game, so he was the only one allowed to play it, and I would fawn all over that thing. I was just in love. I wanted to play it so badly, and I would, like, draw pictures of me playing it, because I was so obsessed, and I don't draw often, but I did then. And so, the time finally came, and I played it, and I loved it. I loved assaulting the Death Star. I loved, you know, storming Hoth, taking down those AT-ATs, and protecting beaches of planet I don't remember the name of.